2023. I'm going to pass in the link here so people can add themselves to the agenda. For the minutes, sorry, here, I'll paste that in the chat. And okay, so before we move on, any announcements that people would like to share? If not, okay, let's move on. So the first issue which was tagged, which was status update and next steps for PKGS create package. So now we don't have any of the people who've sort of been actively participating there or trying to move that forward. I don't know if anybody has any updates or insight. If not, I suggest we'll skip till next time and we may have somebody. I know there's a few people who are actively working on that, but since we don't have them, we'll just skip till next time. The next one is suggested list of modules to get help support info into. I don't know if there's any, I don't have any updates on that front. Does anybody else have any updates? We may have a short meeting this time, but that's okay. So no updates on that one. The next one is number 413, which is suggesting ignoring vulnerabilities by the package maintainers. I think as I know, we're still waiting to kick off the first meeting for the collaboration space. Hopefully that still will happen soon, but I don't have any updates yet. We'll just leave that as no updates this time. So I think that's actually what we had tagged on the issue. And so maybe go ahead, any other topics?
Yeah, you did add the agenda label on one of my issues. So we may as well cover it shortly, although
sounds
sure
good. I probably did that after the issue was generated.
Yeah,
but yeah, go for it.
Yeah, just not sure if we have enough people interested. Maybe we should just not do it. But yeah, basically I suggested that maybe we should effectively fork actions setup node, which is the official GitHub action that they recommend for when you want to basically run node in your CI. Because, well, for one, it's not getting many features that people are asking for. It's also been very hard to push through even the basic support for the keywords, such as, LTS, active, latest even, right? Although I guess if you don't provide anything, it will run just in latest, but if you want to use it in the matrix, they don't really support it. So I know Jordan has, yeah.
Is it maintained? Who maintains it? Like, is it you say it's the official?
Yeah, well, it's I assume that whole organization is the official GitHub Actions.
Okay, from GitHub, right? Okay.
Thing. Yeah. So I know Jordan maintains his own.
Okay.
And I guess his is pretty well worked out and researched, and I guess it suits him at the very least. But I figure that maybe there's a point in, getting something that would be official for Node, as opposed to something that's official that's provided by GitHub, and then maybe we could have more influence in trying to basically steer it in the way we would want the community to run their CI. Even it's hard to do matrices in actions as it stands. It requires a lot of boilerplate. But I know they're working on that, but it's been shifted to Q3 according to their roadmap. So even just getting the basic keywords in there would already be an improvement. So I don't know. Yeah, basically, maybe there's a way to reach out to whichever team works with the official action and try to see if we can, collaborate better there. But that was a suggestion there. I just don't know whether there's enough of a will and whether there's enough of a team that we can assemble to, I don't suppose it will, famous last words, require a lot of maintenance, but it's something that I find would probably be useful. I've also resurrected the detect node support. I had a long-standing issue there to try to build a thing which detects versions from GitHub Actions. So it works for the simple cases already. It doesn't work for Jordan's stuff. We just need to add more code to parse out his configurations and his setup, because I assume there will be a bunch of modules that do use that. So, but even just by random poking around, people will be staying behind if there is no way to automate, at least with the keywords. So yeah, this is where it comes from. And yeah.
So Owen, you have your hand up?
Yeah, the question regarding the pull requests that you linked to in number 26 is the issue that that project won't support the aliases, or that GitHub Actions doesn't support the aliases?
So the GitHub action that sets up Node for you to use does not support aliases or keywords in the matrix where you can request, like, run in these versions of Node. You have to give it a number.
So would the if Node.js was to fork or create an official one, would we still have to update? Like every time the release schedule changes, we would push a new version that reflects.
So we already have tooling which kind of helps you do that. We do have pkg.js env, which automatically fetches the support JSON, which is maintained by, I guess, the release group, right? Which has all the dates, which tells you which versions are released when and how long they're supported. So there's a file already for that. And there's modules that parse that file. So I would assume we'd build on top of that. I haven't looked into Jordan's code, so I assume he does some of that already. And that may be a better starting base than setup Node.
So it'd be possible. So it would be possible to use the aliases. We would shim some work in between that to translate those aliases into actual versions based almost like a browser's list or something like that. I'm not sure if you're
familiar. Yeah, roughly that.
Familiar with that.
There's prior.
Yeah, you set the browser targets and it calculates the syntax based on like my list now and your constraint.
Yeah. So there's a bit of a small pain there,
right?
In that you cannot share a list. That's due to specifics of how GitHub Actions work. But at the very least, that's the first thing that I would like to add in there, is add even the basic keyword support, so that you at least always get the latest version of Node, not just the hard-coded list of versions that you have there. So that's the very basic use case that's currently not supported there. But there's also other issues there that are longstanding that are not being addressed, which kind of indicates that it's probably not a priority for GitHub, or I don't know why.
But it sounds like it's more just the maintenance side on the GitHub side, less about the ability to do things. It's like if someone had the time, they could do the things we're talking about. It's not. So there's a user land solution. It's just we just need a user to land it as a solution.
Yeah. So like I said, the user as a solution, Jordan links to his stuff in the thread there. So that's definitely worth looking into. And then there's a question of blessing that, and maybe working together with GitHub to get a new blessed thing which is recommended for people to use, which does get the maintenance and which does get the input from the way we feel that Node modules should be maintained, Node packages should be maintained.
Right, input from the project, right?
Yeah. I guess just a another, sorry, clarification question, because I like the idea. I guess the question is, if say I'm using this as a GitHub action today, I run a build right now, and then tomorrow, the next LTS for the release schedule shifts tomorrow, and then I build with my action tomorrow. Is that alias mapping happening in the background, or would I have to bump my action to a new version to get the new release schedule? Is it like an opt-in, or is it just kind of like
So it depends on the setup. We can probably flesh out the details, but I would assume most of the people would get a static list of the versions that they support.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, they would add latest at the very end.
Right.
Which means that as a keyword, which means that as a new version comes out, they would start testing in it. Which means that like today, somebody would probably have, I don't know, 10, 12, 14 plus latest, which today would be 10, 12, 14, 16. A couple of weeks ago, it would have been 10, 12, 14, 15.
Right.
6 months ago, it would have been 10, 12, 14, 14, but so it goes.
And today, I mean, earlier today, I was reviewing something with somebody today, and it's like, oh yeah, and I guess we need to add 16 to that list, right? So it's very easy to forget to add the latest one into the lists and stuff. So yeah,
it's a thing that it's a step you need to take, and it's a maintenance burden.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, like, cause the LTS one, like for that case, we'd really like to be able to say LTS and then maybe add some others, right? But like, so yeah, some aliases definitely would make it a lot easier. So I'm thinking on this one that like, we should try and reach out to the people we know. I mean, there's a few people like who are fairly, I mean, Tierney often shows up in this meeting. So I wonder if we should like reach out to Tierney and Miles to say, what's your take, right? Like, do you think you can connect us with the people so that we can have ongoing contribution feedback from the project? Or is it like, yeah, no, they're just too busy and it's not a priority, so do your own thing, right? Makes sense.
I think they are engaging on that thread, at least Tierney is already.
Yeah.
So I'm not sure. Like, to me, I don't see any problem with us forking it and playing around with it in the PKG.js org or something like that, and then even moving it over to Node if we do want something even more recommended kind of under that organization. I see no issues with that, and particularly if we started in PKG.js, because that's just proving out like it's useful for us as package maintainers. So then we can maybe start trialing out some of the modules we have in there, and if we have success, see where we go in parallel, because I think this discussion has been going for quite a while and probably not drawing to a close anytime soon.
Yeah, I like your parallel side, right? Like I'd be more concerned if we run off on our own and don't at least give them, like, don't say, hey, by the way, we're like, you're not taking our feedback, we're going to do something else, because they may say, oh, well, wait a second, right? Like, that's not what we want. And it's probably more effective for us in the end if we can influence officially the one that comes from, because it's probably easier to find that one or see it or whatever, right?
Well,
so I think it would be, go ahead.
Well, if Jordan's got like a kind of a proof of concept somewhere, couldn't we build that proof of concept on to submit a PR with the work, or say like, hey, Jordan's got a proof of concept, we might have a leg up already, and if we can just get it over the finish line, we could submit the PR, and then hopefully it gets blessed. If not, the work's done, we can take it back to the other org.
That's the issue. That particular issue for aliases has a PR, which has been open for a year and a half.
Yeah, like, I don't think
my math is correct.
And it's not just the, hey, we have one PR. It's more we're looking for a path that lets the project have ongoing input. Exactly. And so that's kind of where I think I still think it's useful to try and say to, the contacts we do have who are active in the project and say, hey, this is our view, do you think you can change that, or is that the way it's just going to be? But I agree with Bethany as well, that like, that doesn't need to be a blocker for starting to build something in the PKGS repo as well.
So it's about the feature and the relationship kind of at the same time.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Right. It's like if we can become a partner in maintaining that one, which is probably more easily seen by people and stuff, then that sounds like a good thing for everybody. But if not, then doing something on our own is the only way to sort of get there, right?
So if they were amenable to the alias, then maybe we would know that let's grab Jordan's POC and try and prove it out or something.
I would even
Well,
be
maybe,
more like,
maybe
can
not
we,
as a whole, but yeah, I mean, I know Jordan wants to do his own thing in some cases, so that's fine. It's just, yeah, providing a well-supported alternative which does take into consideration the best practices that we deem are best practices.
right. Like, I think the ask would almost be like, can some of the people from this team or the project become maintainers, right? Like it's not really the, hey, just take this one thing.
Exactly.
It's a, is that one going to be like a GitHub controlled project, or is it going to be one where maintainers, there can be broader maintainership, in which case it could be suitable. If not, then the PKGS is where we can, basically have broader collaborators participate.
Is it too blunt to make an issue for that, or because I mean, it seems like that's the subtext, which may or may not be captured in the current issue, but I don't know how those things get worked out.
Would OpenJS Slack be the right place to ping people for discussion? Yeah,
maybe, I personally find like the personal, like, if we basically sent an email or a Slack or something to Miles and Tierney as the people I know who are closest to GitHub, they can give us their feedback. Like, they'll probably be honest and say, hey, that's never going to happen, so don't bother. But I don't think it needs to be necessarily a whole public discussion, right? Like, you can go to them and get their feedback, and then that'll probably tell us right away what to do.
Well, I guess it was more from the, that's probably something I can't do, but I didn't know if there was someone here, or we knew someone on the team that we could follow up with and say, hey, we had this idea, check the meeting notes, we had this idea.
Yeah.
Can you get a feel of it for us from them? I'm not sure who that would be. Maybe if that's one thing we can figure out is like who could arbitrate that discussion or initiate that discussion. I'm not sure if that's you, Michael, if you know them or not. I don't know who knows who.
Yeah, I mean, it's for, I'd be happy to send email, but it would be Tierney and Miles that I would reach out to.
Okay.
I think if they are like, it's because it's finding somebody who's interested as well. And I think they could at least pass it on. And if then there's no interest, it's like, yeah, okay, we're not going to get any. But I think Beth's point about not waiting is also a very good one, right? Like, I think, starting some work in PKGS, there's nothing wrong with doing that in parallel.
Yeah, I guess it also seemed like it was part of the optics. Like, do we send an email, wait a couple weeks, and then see like, hey, we'll give it a couple weeks and then we'll start prototyping on our own, or something like that, or just go both at the same time if the optics was a factor.
I think it could be like it's prototyping as in there, hopefully at this point, get for it to go back in, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I mean, it makes sense to just, for whatever we'd like to try out, certainly keep that going. But, people get busy and it might take a while. So it'd be good to be, as you say, be able to run parallel, or as Beth says, be able to run parallel. Probably just overthinking it, so never mind.
Yeah, okay, I'll see if I can ping some folks on
okay,
if you Slacks and see if I can start a discussion there to see
good.
what the plan would be, if there's anything. I'm not sure if I would have time to start the script itself, the fork itself this month, so I guess we can talk before we start, unless somebody else is very
Sure.
anxious to do that.
Yeah, that's the other flip side. If
Yeah.
we're not going to do anything anyway, then yeah.
Yeah, not for the next few weeks.
No point creating the repo, right, until we're actually
Yeah,
going to do
exactly.
something.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, yeah, that's
all
exactly. I
I
wanted to
had.
understand a little better on that one. That's why I had it. That's great. I will remove it from the, or should I leave it on the agenda just for an update next time?
Yeah, probably. Yeah.
Okay.
I guess it doesn't hurt.
Okay. Any other topics that we want to cover? If not, thanks to everybody for taking the time to come and those who are watching, and we'll see you all next time. Bye. And hold on. Don't everybody leave though. I'm just going to stop the stream.